Welcome to Leopard Farm. Picture this. Vast farmland stretching across Germany, now under siege from an unstoppable force, wild boars. These smart, bold invaders charge through fields like living bulldozers, ripping up crops, trampling soil, and costing farmers millions in losses every single year. To protect their livelihoods and push back against the destruction, a determined group of hunters has stepped up to fight the battle head-on. They're not backing down. Each hunt turns into a pulse-pounding showdown, hearts racing, rifles steady, knowing one slip could let these massive, tank-like animals vanish into the underbrush. You'll be on the edge of your seat watching whether the hunters could drop their target in time. Stick around to the end. I'll ask you to pick the most nail-biting moment of the day. We were hunting wild boar in the wide-open fields of Brandenburg with Kevin's crew. They'd gotten there before dawn, forming a tight circle in the chilly morning air. Nobody wanted anything slipping through the line. The tension was thick. Everyone knew these drives could turn chaotic in a heartbeat. Out of nowhere, a massive boar exploded from the thick cover and barreled straight toward Nick's stand. There wasn't a second to spare. Nick swung his rifle to his shoulder and squeezed off a shot. The sharp report echoed across the fields as the big boar crumpled instantly, vanishing into the tall grass. It was a perfect heart-lung hit, quick, clean, and dead on, exactly what you'd expect from the best marksman in the group. For a split second, the rest of the boars froze, sounders milling in confusion, before they scattered in every direction like an explosion of brown fury. The midday sun blazed overhead, hearts pounding in anticipation as Kevin's crew sprang into action. They slipped quietly through a gap in the fence, fanning out across the adjacent field to their carefully scouted ambush spots. These guys moved like pros, smooth and silent, because after years of chasing game together, they practically were. "10 minutes later, Jay Scope caught sight of them, a sounder of wild boars rooting up fresh earth to the east, acting like they owned the whole countryside. He locked onto the biggest one in the bunch, a massive fat trophy that would make any hunter proud. One clean shot rang out, and the giant dropped, kicking hard once before going still. Jay hit the signal for the chase, but the rest of the herd had already vanished into the dense brush. No time for frustration, they had work to do. He tuned the radio for a steady, calm voice to keep everyone focused. The boar was pushing northwest through thick cover, moving fast and hard. The team quietly closed the circle, relying on the trail that slipped onto the sounder earlier that week. Time dragged, every second stretching into eternity, until the brush clouds from Kevin's blind erupted in chaos. A big lone boar burst out, squealing in pain, charging blindly straight into the open kill zone as it fled for its life. One clean shot, the massive animal dropped instantly. Threat eliminated, crops spared from another night of devastation. Just another win in the ongoing fight to protect the fields. A few miles away in Lower Saxony, The quiet war against crop-eating wild boar continued. James crouched low at the edge of a dense stand of tall grass bordering a field of boulder, ready to harvest corn, rifle steady and eyes locked on the shadows ahead. Her eyes strained against the inky darkness, heart pounding in anticipation. Then, without warning, a massive sow burst from her cover, charging straight at her with fangs gleaming and a fierce claim to the territory. That game was ready. She didn't flinch. With a calm, deliberate squeeze of the trigger, the rifle's sharp report cut through the still, open landscape. The boar collapsed mid-stride, stopped in her tracks. Minutes later, the hounds picked up a fresh, steaming trail. Their excited barks filled the air as the pack surged forward. Jay and the rest of the hunters were already on the move, boots thudding against the frozen ground, positioning themselves to back up the dogs and handle whatever might explode from the field. Rifles at the ready, they stared intently into the tangled undergrowth. Suddenly, a shadowy blur shot out, a massive boar in full charge. A single, precise shot rang out, crisp and final. The huge instantly, crumpling onto the frost-hardened earth without so much as a twitch. One more threat eliminated before it could rip through another farmer's livelihood. Welcome to Leopard Farm. Back in the early 1990s, most wildlife experts were bracing for the worst. America's black bear population seemed to be sliding toward extinction. Alarm bells were ringing, and the future looked bleak. But black bears didn't read the memos. With remarkable adaptability and a little help from smarter conservation efforts, they pulled off one of the most stunning turnarounds in North American wildlife history. Fast forward to today, and there are now an estimated 700,000 to 800,000 black bears roaming the U.S. and Canada, nearly double what many thought was possible just a few decades ago. That's an undeniable success story. The flip side? As bears reclaim old habitats and push into new ones, they're running into people more than ever. Raided gardens, destroyed crops, lost livestock, and smashed up property now cost farmers, ranchers, and homeowners close to $150 million a year. And the tension keeps growing. Hunting black bears has been part of North America for thousands of years, long before it ever became a sport. For native tribes and early settlers, bringing home a bear meant food on the table, warm hides for clothing and bedding, and bones turned into tools and weapons. It was survival, plain and simple, and it forged a deep respect for the animal and the land. That respect never disappeared. Today's hunters, especially bow hunters who chase bears with a bow, still feel it every time they step into the woods. Every hunt is a quiet way of honoring the people who came before us and keeping an ancient tradition alive in a modern world. There's nothing quite like the rush about hunting black bears, because it forces you to get close, really close. We're talking 20 to 30 yards or less for a clean, ethical shot. You'll be pinned against a cedar stump in dark timber, perched on a ridgeline glassing berry patches and fresh clear cuts, or sitting dead still on a log at the edge of an oak flat at dusk. Every hunt becomes a chess match, reading terrain funnels, knowing exactly what the bears are gorging on that week, and always keeping the wind in your face. Of course, we don't just run wild out there. Every state has solid regulations, season dates, tag limits, and clear rules on baiting or hounds, all designed to keep bear numbers strong and for the next generation. For bow hunters, spring when they're fresh out of the den and hungry, and fall when they're piling on fat for winter, are flat-out magic. Those two windows are when the woods feel alive and the big boars come looking for an easy meal, sometimes closer than you ever thought possible. Fall is when bears go into hyperdrive, hammering calories like there's no tomorrow to pack on fat for winter. They're most active at dawn and dusk, those crisp, low-light hours when the woods feel almost haunted. That's when the real magic happens, the moments every bear hunter lives for. But let's be clear, those bucket list encounters aren't handouts from Lady Luck. They're earned through stubborn patience, obsessive preparation, and flawless execution from the second you leave the truck until you're tagging that bear.
Okay, shoot him again. He's all yours.
Public land is where most of us chase them. National forests, state wildlife areas, BLM ground, anywhere bears call home. You start by reading the country like a book. Fresh tracks pressed deep in the mud, scat piled high with berry seeds, trees shredded with claw marks 6 or 7 feet up, logs ripped apart like paper looking for grubs. Those signs are pure gold. Find them, and you're in the game. Just never forget that a bear's nose is a weapon. He can wind you from a half-mile out if the breeze betrays you. Play the wind wrong, and the hunt's over before it starts.
He's shot.
That's why obsessive scent control is absolutely non-negotiable. You wash your clothes in scent-free soap, store them in airtight bins, play the wind like your life depends on it, because in a way, it does.